Esther's heart sank the moment she found herself standing outside the company's closed gate in the pouring rain, clutching her file so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She knew the interview was already underway, and the security guard had just informed her that she was too late to enter. Her legs felt weak, and her mind screamed with regret. She had spent precious minutes helping an old man she found on the street, and now she had lost her only chance. But even with her stomach twisting in knots, a small voice in her head whispered, "You did the right thing." She breathed in, shivering as the cold rain soaked her clothes, wondering how everything had happened so quickly. 2 days earlier, she had woken up in her small room, a place she shared with her mother. Their home was in a neighborhood often overlooked by wealthy developers, where many houses had cracks on the walls and leaky roofs during rainy seasons. Esther's mother, Linda, had been battling an illness that left her bedridden for weeks at a time, and their life savings had gone into hospital bills. Day after day, Esther searched for job opportunities, but she kept hitting dead ends. Her desperation was growing like a heavy weight in her chest. That morning, her phone rang. It was her friend, Rebecca, who sounded excited. Rebecca said, "Esther, I have great news. There's a job interview at Starview Enterprises in 2 weeks. It's owned by some foreign investor. People say he's a very strict man. They want punctual people, no African time. But rumor has it they're looking for something different this year, not just punctuality. They're testing how kind and loyal candidates are. I think you have a good chance." Esther's face lit up. She felt a spark of hope stirring within her. "Rebecca, thank you so much. I'll do anything I can to prepare. I really need this job to support my mom." She looked over at her mother, who managed to smile weakly from across the room. The thought of being able to buy her mother's medications without worry gave Esther renewed strength. For the next 2 weeks, Esther practiced her introduction in front of the mirror. She researched the company online, memorizing facts about their products and corporate culture. She even rehearsed how to greet the interview panel with calm confidence. Each night, she prayed for strength and for the opportunity to finally secure a stable job. The day before the interview, she ironed her best outfit, a simple navy blue skirt and a white blouse that looked professional enough to make a good first impression. She tucked her file, which held her resume and certificates, into a waterproof folder to protect them from any sudden downpour. On the morning of the interview, dark clouds gathered overhead, and the sound of distant thunder echoed across the sky. Esther woke up earlier than usual. She checked on her mother, who was sleeping fitfully, then made a light breakfast of tea and bread. Linda tried to sit up, coughing as she spoke. "My daughter, I prayed for you last night. May everything go well for you today." Esther bent down and held her mother's hand. "Thank you, Mom. I'll do my best." She glanced at the clock on the wall and realized she needed to leave immediately if she wanted to avoid the worst of the rain and traffic. She pulled on her shoes, grabbed her umbrella, and carefully held her file under her arm as she stepped out the door. The rain started gradually, turning the roads slick. She managed to catch a bus, but the vehicle was crowded with other people trying to avoid being late for work or important appointments. The bus wheezed through the streets, stopping often in traffic. Esther's anxiety mounted with each minute that passed. She could almost feel time slipping through her fingers. Eventually, the bus dropped her off a few blocks away from the company. By then, the rain had intensified. She raised her umbrella and walked briskly, trying not to slip on puddles. She noticed several people heading in the same direction, some carrying files just like hers. They must be applicants too, she thought, feeling both pressured and determined. Everyone seemed to be in a rush, and nobody was speaking to anyone else, no pleasantries, no small talk. It was as though the entire street was consumed by the urgency of the interviews about to start. As she approached the tall gates of Starview Enterprises, she saw a figure huddled on the side of the road, near a narrow alley. At first glance, he looked like a beggar, soaked to the skin in dirty clothes. The man's hair was tangled, and raindrops streamed down his face. Esther hesitated, noticing how other applicants barely even looked his way. Some people just muttered, "Poor old man," while others took a wide path around him as though they feared he might waste their time. Esther tried to push forward. Her heart was set on reaching the company gate, but the image of the old man lingered in her mind. She took a few more steps, then stopped, remembering her mother's illness and the years of struggle they had both endured. She said softly under her breath, "If it was my mother in need, I would want someone to help her." She turned around, walked back, and knelt beside the old man. He looked up, startled by her presence, his eyes filled with both caution and relief. She asked gently, "Sir, are you all right? Can you stand?" Her voice trembled a bit because she could feel the seconds ticking away, but she focused on him. The man tried to speak, but his voice broke in the cold. "I'm hungry. I haven't eaten," he managed to say. His clothes looked like they had been soaked through many times over, and there was a faint smell of stale water around him. Esther exhaled, battling the anxiety that told her she should run to the gate right now. Instead, she helped the old man to his feet. It wasn't easy, as his legs seemed weak and he stumbled. "There's a small restaurant nearby," she said, pointing across the street. "Let's go there." He leaned on her shoulder for support as they crossed the busy road, cars honking and splashing water. A few curious onlookers watched them, but no one bothered to lend a hand. Once they got inside the restaurant, which was mostly empty that early in the morning, she guided him to a table. The smell of warm food hit her nose, and she realized she hadn't eaten much herself. But she only had a little money. She had saved everything she could for transport and maybe a small lunch after the interview. Still, she couldn't ignore the old man's condition. She ordered something simple for him, hot tea and a plate of rice. The waiter gave her a sympathetic look. "He's not from around here, is he?" the waiter asked, arranging the cutlery on the table. Esther shook her head and replied softly, "I don't know where he's from. I saw him on the road, and I needed to help." The old man dipped his head in gratitude, but said nothing else. He sipped his tea slowly, as though every drop was precious. Esther glanced at the clock on the wall. Panic surged in her chest. "I'm going to be late," she thought. She looked at the old man with concern. "Sir, I have a job interview," she explained, shifting in her seat as though she was about to bolt out the door. "I'm sorry, but I need to leave soon. Are you going to be okay?" He nodded, a small smile creeping across his face. "Thank you, my child. God bless you. I'll be fine now." She placed some money on the counter to pay for his meal and rushed out. The rain hammered her umbrella as she half ran, half walked to the company's gate. Her shoes squeaked with every step. By the time she arrived, her hair was damp, and she could feel water trickling down her forehead. A security officer stood in front of the main entrance, scanning a list of names. Esther approached him, panting. "Good morning. My name is Esther. I'm here for the interview." He squinted at her. "The interview started half an hour ago," he said, pointing to the large clock hanging above the reception area. "I'm sorry, but the instructions were clear. Latecomers won't be allowed in." Esther's heart dropped. She could hear murmurs from a few of the applicants who were still hanging around the reception. Some of them wore smug expressions, clearly relieved that one more competitor was being turned away. She stepped closer to the reception desk, trying to stay calm. "Please, I had an emergency on the way. I can explain." The receptionist, a woman with serious eyes, sighed. "We've already taken the number of candidates who arrived on time. The HR department told us they won't accommodate late arrivals today." Esther pressed her lips together, feeling tears threaten to spill. Her eyes darted around the lobby. She considered begging, but she sensed it wouldn't do any good. The staff looked overwhelmed, and no one had the patience for pleas. Defeated, she stepped aside and sank into a chair in the waiting area. The sounds of rain against the windows echoed through the large hall, and she stared at the white-tiled floor, her mind racing with regrets. As the minutes dragged on, she noticed that the applicants who arrived on time were now filing out of a side corridor. Some looked pleased, others looked disappointed, but at least they had gotten their interviews. She asked the security guard again, "Is there absolutely no chance for me to speak with someone in charge?" He shrugged. "You can wait around, but I can't promise anything." The CEO left instructions to be strict about lateness. "We don't even know if he'll come in today. He might be visiting one of the project sites." She decided to wait, clinging to a last shred of hope. Hours passed, and eventually, the staff began to pack up. The reception area grew quiet, except for a cleaner mopping the floor. A tall man in a navy blue suit stepped out from an office, looked at the clock, and then glanced at Esther. "Are you still here?" he asked, his tone puzzled. She nodded, feeling her throat tighten. "I was supposed to interview today, but I came late. I'm hoping," she paused, unable to find the right words. She could see no sympathy in his eyes. "Look," he said, his voice drained of emotion. "The process is closed. You should go home. If the company decides to give another chance to latecomers, we'll contact you." That was it. He walked away, leaving her standing there like a lost child. With her shoulders sagging, she left the building. The rain had stopped, but puddles remained on the sidewalk. Her shoes squelched with every step as she headed to a bus stop. On the ride home, she gazed out the window at the gray sky, replaying the scene of her helping the old man in her mind. Maybe I should have walked past him like the others, she thought bitterly. But then she remembered the look of relief on his face. She held her file close to her chest and tried not to cry. She feared disappointing her mother most of all. When she finally got home, her mother asked, "How is it, dear?" in a weary voice, though her eyes sparked with hope. Esther forced a small smile, but then shook her head. "They didn't let me in. I was late." Her mother's face fell, and Esther quickly added, "I'll keep trying, Mom. Don't worry." She helped her mother with dinner, just a simple soup that Esther prepared with leftover vegetables. Afterward, she went to bed early, too drained to do anything else. Her phone remained silent all through the next day, making her feel even more anxious. She spent most of that day looking online for any other vacancies, sending out emails, and praying that someone would give her another shot. On the second day after the missed interview, her phone buzzed around noon. She picked it up quickly. "Hello," she said, her voice trembling with caution and a thread of hope. "Hello, is this Esther?" asked a calm, firm male voice. "Yes, sir," she answered. "We'd like you to come in for an interview at Starview Enterprises tomorrow morning at 10. Please be on time." Then the line went dead before she could ask any questions. She stared at her phone in disbelief. "They want me to come in?" she said out loud, heart racing. Her mother looked at her from the bed, eyebrows raised. "You got a second chance?" Linda whispered, a smile of relief lighting her face. Esther nodded, feeling a surge of energy and joy. "I'll make sure I won't be late this time." That night, she went to bed early, determined not to let anything derail her. The following morning, she left home 2 hours ahead of schedule. The sun was bright, and the air was warm, a stark contrast to the rainy day before. This time, the bus ride was smooth, with little traffic. She arrived at the company gate with more than 30 minutes to spare. The security guard recognized her and allowed her to enter upon seeing her ID. He directed her to the reception area, where the same woman from before gave her a polite smile. "Go straight down the hall to the second door on your right," the receptionist said, handing her a small visitor pass. Esther walked down the hallway, her shoes tapping lightly against the polished floor. The building was quite large, with bright lighting and framed photos of the company's achievements on the walls. She paused outside the second door, trying to calm her nerves. Then she entered. A tall, thin man wearing a shirt and tie smiled and gestured for her to sit. He introduced himself as Mr. Baker from Human Resources. "Esther," he began, "we decided to give you a special call. Please wait here for our chairman. He specifically asked to speak with you." Esther's eyes widened. "The chairman?" She was going to say she had never met him, but she stopped herself, feeling too nervous to form the words. She nodded and tried to keep her composure. Minutes later, the door opened, and in walked a man Esther almost didn't recognize at first. He looked well-groomed, with neatly combed hair and dressed in a crisp suit. But when she looked closer, her breath caught. It was the same face, just without the tangled hair, dirt, and worn clothes. Standing before her was the old man she had helped on the street. She gasped, and her hands began to tremble. He smiled warmly at her. "Esther, please relax. We appreciate your patience. I'm sure you must have been confused as to why we called you back. She tried to stand, her legs feeling shaky. You're the chairman? She managed to ask, her mind spinning with questions. He nodded. I am. My name is John Miller. I was out that day, checking the condition of one of our community projects. I wanted to see for myself how people treat those in need without knowing who they truly are. You see, punctuality and qualifications are important to us, but we decided to test another quality this time, kindness. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Esther's mind flickered back to the memory of him looking so frail and hungry. She never once suspected he could be anyone of importance. She recalled how others had walked past him. Her body tingled with a mix of shock and relief. I'm sorry, she said quickly, bowing her head, not even sure why she was apologizing. Perhaps she felt overwhelmed by the sudden revelation. He raised a hand gently to calm her. You have nothing to apologize for, my dear. If anything, I need to thank you. You were the only one who showed concern. You risked missing your interview, and eventually, you did miss it. But your compassion stood out. That's what we look for in our employees. People who are not only skilled, but also have genuine hearts. You've already passed our test. Tears welled up in Esther's eyes. She wanted to speak, but it felt like her throat was stuck. After a moment, she found her voice. Thank you, sir. I just saw someone who needed help. I didn't do it expecting anything in return. Mr. Miller nodded, his expression kind. That's exactly why you deserve this. Now, please go with Mr. Baker. He'll give you all the details you need about your new position. He glanced at her file. I'm sure you have your documents, but as far as I'm concerned, I've seen what matters most. Esther's heart felt light, like a heavy burden had been lifted. She couldn't remember the last time she was this happy. She carefully followed Mr. Baker to another office, where he explained her job description, salary, and responsibilities. She listened intently, grateful for every word. She was told she'd start in a junior administrative position, with opportunities for growth if she performed well. By the time they finished, she was clutching a small stack of papers that outlined her schedule, company policies, and benefits. She felt like she was dreaming. When she left the building, the sun was still shining. It felt like an entirely different universe from the rainy day before. She walked slowly, trying to process everything that had happened. Her phone buzzed, and she saw a message from Rebecca. How did it go? Esther smiled, typed a quick reply. I got the job, and hit send. She imagined Rebecca jumping for joy on the other end. Esther decided to visit a pharmacy on her way home to pick up her mother's medication. She had just been told that her first paycheck would arrive in a month, but even so, she felt confident enough to find a way to manage until then. As she rode the bus back home, she replayed the conversation with Mr. Miller in her mind. She wondered how many other applicants had walked past him, not realizing that their future boss was right there, observing them. And she smiled to herself, realizing that one act of kindness had changed the course of her entire life. When she got home, she found her mother sitting up, wearing an anxious look on her face. Well? Linda asked, her hands trembling slightly. Esther's eyes sparkled. Mom, I got the job, she said in a calm voice, but tears slipped down her cheeks as she sank next to her mother on the bed. Linda hugged her daughter tightly, coughing between sobs of relief. They stayed like that for several moments, the little room filled with quiet gratitude. Later that evening, they shared a modest dinner, but their spirits were high. Esther recounted every detail for her mother, how the chairman turned out to be the old man, how nobody recognized him, how her small act of helping him had overshadowed all her regrets about being late. Her mother listened, shaking her head in amazement. It seems like a miracle, Linda whispered, wiping her eyes.